Good morning. How are you doing, John?
I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic, and very excited to talk about Macho Man because wow, this to me was my superhero, my Iron Man, that guy that you could always turn to, and you knew there was going to be entertainment and excitement.
Yeah, he was the same for me. When I grew up, it was like he was the guy that I did the elbow drop off the couch onto my brother, right? I did everything he wanted to do.
How did you come into writing this book? Because I mean, did you come into it as a fan, or did you come into it as just someone that said, I've got a story that I need to share, and it's going to come from me, but I need to share it in a way to where fans go, thank you.
Yeah, both. This was a bucket list biography for me. It's my 10th book, so I've done plenty of others ahead of this one, and I used to write for Muscle and Fitness, so I did a lot of cover stories with some of the bigger names in WWE, Triple H, Batista, Brock Lesnar, those guys. And so I've been a wrestling fan since I was a kid. My son, who's now 11, the last 3 or 4 years, he's been heavily into it. And so the more I got him into wrestling, the more I kept thinking in the back of my mind, there's never been a definitive biography of what I think is the greatest wrestler of all time, Randy Savage.
Yep.
And so why not me, right? So why not I write it? So I put the proposal together, had my agent send it all out to some publishers, and then the linchpin for me was making sure that I got in touch with Lanny Poffo, his brother, back when he was alive.
So what was it like for you, though, to even meet up with him? Because was his brother open and ready to share this story as well?
Yeah, Lanny Poffo was at the time, the last living Poffo in the wrestling business. Angelo had passed away. Judy, who had worked with them in the ICW, had passed away. Randy had passed away. Miss Elizabeth, who was involved, had passed away. So he looked at himself very much as the standard bearer of not only the Poffo legacy, but of Randy's legacy in particular. And he was really an encyclopedia of the wrestling business from the 70s and 80s. And so being able to talk to him and get the insight into not only just, the general feeling of what it's like to grow up with your dad as a wrestler, because Angelo Poffo was a successful wrestler as well. Not a headliner, but he had a long storied career in wrestling. Was invaluable. And then you got the nitty gritty stuff of, what's it like to be in the car after a show, and what your apartments were like, and what you ate, and what so-and-so was really like when backstage, and that kind of stuff. So that was why it was super important to get in touch with Lanny to write the book.
One of the things that you point out in the book is that you explain to the fans of professional wrestling and those who will discover, because of YouTube, we can go in there and watch it at any time, but the grind of it all, and that it was not an overnight sensation, that there was a story before we got the victories.
Yeah, now, most of the guys who make it to the WWF went to an academy that's probably pretty well known. And then if they finally make it up to the big time, they have a tour bus or, an RV, and they're flying, their flights are booked and all these kind of things. But back in the 70s, especially the early 70s, after Randy's baseball career flamed out, I mean, these guys were just, 4 or 5 guys, giant guys in a small car, on a 7-8 day loop to 6 towns, 3 shows a night, grabbing a loaf of bread and salami in the car just to get some food in, push-ups on the side of the road and the locker room to get your workout in. It was not a glamorous business, and it was not even for much money, to be honest. They really they had to pinch like every penny they had for gas mileage. When they did the ICW, and all the wrestlers who were there at the time, were famously talked about how much of a stickler Angelo Poffo was with money. But they drove in a car that had 400,000 miles on it. They were not. This is not a luxurious lifestyle by any means.
Randy Savage reminded me so much of Harley Race in the way that Randy wrestled at carnivals, schools, state fairs. Harley Race did the same thing. Were they connected at all? Because it just seems like I saw Harley Race in Randy Savage. Yeah,
Harley worked with him. He was one of the second or third guys to work with Randy when he was really starting to come up in his career.
Yeah.
I think that was all those guys of that era who were in the territories. They would do a high school, an armorium, a state fair, a college. They would go do something at a circus on the side, like anybody where they could find paying money for wrestlers to watch wrestling. They would go, and they would find they would try to own a territory. They would create these rivalries. They would buy newspaper articles written by themselves, making fun of themselves, or not making fun in a negative way, but like trying to draw attention to themselves. Anything that would do any kind of controversy was good. Anything that would get people to pay $1, $2, $5 to go watch them wrestle was fair game.
I love the way that you start off the book, Angelo Poffo. I mean, I just because you introduce us to what is about ready to happen, and you understand that there's many of us that don't know this story, and I like your pacing with it, where you bring us into the story.
Thank you. Yeah, the as much as a diehard fan of Randy's that I was, most of it was from when I was a kid, and some with YouTube and social media every year on the anniversary was passing, new articles come out or new things come out. But even as diehard as I was, I only knew, I knew one sentence, right? I knew his brother wrestled. I knew his father wrestled, but I didn't know anything about Angelo. I didn't know anything about what his life was like and what brought him to wrestling. Know that he wrestled with some of the, he trained under some of the most well-known wrestlers in the 50s and 60s. And I definitely didn't know about his world record for sit-ups, most consecutive sit-ups. And to me, that really spoke to the drive that was in the Poffo DNA. I mean, not much would be thinking, okay, there's a world record. I want to be someone who has a Guinness World Record, and this is the one I'm going to do.
I was so fascinated with that sit-up record, because if you go to Riverside Junior High School in Billings, Montana, and you go inside that gymnasium, right there at the top is a dude by the name of Clarence Anthony that did the sit-up record at that school. That's me. So when I read that, I'm going, yes, he totally got it.
What was your record? How many did you get?
Here's the thing that happened. My teacher goes, the one that was doing the counting, and he goes, okay, all you have to do is do 1,000. When you hit 1,000, you can quit at any time. The second he told me that, I felt like he opened the door for me to quit, because it ended up being 1,200, but I still, all the way from 1,000 on, I could hear his voice saying, you can quit at any time. And I'm going, God, you should not have ever said that to me.
Yeah, Angelo, the interesting thing was the sit-ups were these technical sit-ups where it was you would lift you'd go up from the sit-up position and you had to touch the alternating, knees with your alternating elbows and then go back down. And someone was they actually had prisoners of war holding his legs since it was on a naval base. And he had already tried the record once and had disqualified for form. So this was the second time. The first time he had around 5,000, and this time he did 6,033 over 4 hours, which is, it's just, I keep in pretty good shape, and that is an insane number right there.
And what travels through your mind. Where can people go to find out more information about all of your books? Because one of the things I've always loved about you, John, is that you go in and you get the root of the story. And as a martial artist, that's the one thing that our Sabanim always told us. Don't just do the art. Go in there and get the root and understand why you are here, and honor the people that lived it before you did.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. That's my goal.
Well, it's an excellent goal to have. Dude, be brilliant today. Looking forward to our next conversation.